You've checked the mirrors, you check the smoke detectors, you check behind the television, under the lamps. What if your visual inspection yielded a big fat goose egg? What if there was another way to find a hidden Wi-Fi signal from a camera without actually having to do the physical inspection at all? Today, I want to show you an incredibly smart digital method I've seen for finding suspicious Wi-Fi devices. And I want to introduce you to someone because I refuse to reinvent the wheel and I won't take credit for anybody else's efforts. The internet, and YouTube specifically, has enough people trying to be the smartest guy in the room. I really want to be the guy that introduces you to the smartest people I know of. I mean, in my job, I've been smacked in the head enough times to be dumber than a box of rocks. And I use YouTube just like you as a learning resource. So I can use all the help I can get. Before we jump into this, I want to talk to you about someone whose work I've genuinely come to respect. And that's Kodie Kinzie over at Retia, formerly Null Byte, featured on Hack 5, and seen in interviews on one of my favorite IT security channels, that being David Bombal.
What does the Wi-Fi Nugget specifically do? Like, what's the use case? Why would I buy one? Because, I mean, I was looking at the website and I was thinking I should buy one of these.
I'd like to discuss David Bombal in another video where I can, in greater detail, talk about how I've used his content to create learning paths and resources that I wouldn't have otherwise had the opportunity to know about. But for this video, I really want to talk about Kodie specifically and focus on him because he's completely deserving of it.
What's the difference between a Raspberry Pi and a microcontroller? Because I still want to talk about the Wi-Fi Nugget.
At the moment, about $200. But
Okay.
On a technical level, the Raspberry Pi is something that is a computer you can plug into, basically like a spare monitor.
Now, let me say this right out of the gate. This is not a sponsored video. It's not a paid plug. I don't recommend people lightly. And if I do, it's because I've invested a lot of my own time trying to figure it out for myself and now for you. This is simply me giving credit where credit's due. And I'm not kidding when I tell you. I absolutely binged on this guy's content. And I have a playlist devoted specifically for him that I watch for a variety of reasons, especially when I'm trying to replicate something that he's demonstrating. In fact, here. As someone that comes from a background like mine, counter-surveillance, protective operations, now digital forensics, I'm constantly seeking out people that can take complicated concepts and make them understandable. Kodie does that exceptionally well.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hacking with Friends. Now today we're going to do something that I think is really fun. We're going to explore an old school topic, which is war driving, but with an updated guide. So we're going to be using the fully updated version of Kismet.
There are people that know things and people that can teach things. And they aren't always the same people. And what I respect is this. He's taking difficult concepts, hacking, offensive security, open source intelligence, and making it understandable, less intimidating. In a world where more and more bad actors are using technology for malicious intentions, well, I'd like to believe that Kodie and I are kind of fighting the same fight. Kodie from the cyber side, me from the investigative side. And that matters. I liked his work so much that I went on his site, Retia, and I purchased one of his Wi-Fi nuggets. The deluxe package. It had the USB nugget and Wi-Fi nugget. It was a combined project maker kit. I assembled it. I started exploring its functionality. And then another investigator I know, well, he saw its potential. He liked it. He needed it. And now it belongs to him. So yes, I'll definitely be buying another one. Probably more than one. Definitely more than one. And if you decide to pick one up, I suggest you get the deluxe package. It comes with two different types of Wi-Fi nugget. One is a USB and one is Wi-Fi. So it gives you a greater depth of functionality. It's a project package, so there is assembly required, but they make it pretty straightforward and there's support if you need it. I believe in supporting people, making a real impact, especially creators putting themselves out there, because this stuff is genuinely really hard. Creators and educators don't have billion-dollar marketing departments. They have us. I'm going to link Kodie's channels and the full videos that I featured in this video, as well as his Retia store, where you can purchase the Wi-Fi Nugget, in the description below. So please, If you appreciate people who are working hard to empower the public, go support them. And Kodie, if this somehow reaches you, thank you. I've learned so much from your work. I've used it in the field to help real people with unfortunate problems. So you've made an impact. There's something meaningful in combining cyber awareness with real-world investigative fieldcraft. So if you ever want to compare notes, it would be a heck of a conversation. I'd be honored. All right, let's talk hidden Wi-Fi cameras.
If you've ever wanted to track down the location of a device that's broadcasting on Wi-Fi, we'll show you how to use Wireshark and a directional Wi-Fi antenna to track it down on this episode of Cyber Weapons Lab.
So the tactic we're going to be talking about today and watching Kodie use is using an application called Wireshark, which I'm sure you already know about. And I'm not going to get into exactly what it does or what it doesn't do, because there are innumerable amounts of videos on how to use Wireshark for seeing packet traffic. But in this particular case, he's using Wireshark so that you can see the Wi-Fi signal strength on an I/O graph, which is one of the functionalities that Wireshark allows. And I think that's absolutely awesome. And when I saw it, it just completely blew my mind, because it wasn't like you were trying to find the device. You were just accessing the data, which is super cool to me.
Wireshark is a program commonly used to decode and analyze different types of wireless transmissions. And today, we're going to look into a different use for it, where we're going to be using some of its handy analysis tools to actually graph the signal strength of various different wireless networks. Now, we can take this even further and start graphing devices as well. So whether you want to track down a rogue wireless access point that's suddenly spun up near your house, or you want to find out where a cell phone is, this technique will generally apply to both. Now, in order to use it, you will need a Kali-compatible wireless network adapter like this Alpha one here, and a directional antenna. In this case, we're using a panel one, but if you want to get crazy, you can also use a parabolic dish or a Yagi antenna as well. You'll also need a computer with Wireshark running, but that's pretty much it, because the rest of this is just using some really cool but poorly documented features of Wireshark in order to track down the location of these devices.
Oh, at least there can't be one in here.
That's nice, Dad.
So the intro is a playful example of how these devices, if they're placed, they're going to be placed in private spaces. They want to rob you of your privacy. It becomes incumbent on you to do your homework. And one, obviously, you want to make sure that the place where you're staying at doesn't have any sort of reputation. And even then, you have to plan ahead. Make sure that you have tools. In this case, you're using Wireshark. But to have these things available so that as soon as you check in, you can immediately go to work on trying to figure out if there is anything nefarious there. And you check the most private spaces first, and then you work your way out. The laws have been instituted that around common areas outside, there can be cameras. But in the most intimate spaces, in a lodging, there obviously can't be anything. So you check those places first. And if you have a reasonable suspicion, you can go to the next level with it.
Today, we're going to show off that it can also be used for finding hidden cameras. A lot of hidden cameras nowadays are connected to Wi-Fi, offering a live feed for whoever set it up. Fortunately, we can use Wireshark to hunt down the signals from those cameras, and even use Wireshark to do things like intercept the images being streamed and hunt down the location of the camera in the real world using its signal strength. So I've hidden a camera in the living room, and it's going to be up to Alex and his laptop to use Wireshark to track down the camera physically.
Okay, so obviously they're using some hyperbole here. So I don't think that you're going to see something so out in front or out in the open as that particular example. Usually, some of these are built in to devices, such as USB chargers and other things that are already going to be plugged in. Like I said in the last video, you want to check alarm clocks. You want to check lights, things that are close to power sources. Because even though they're not going to be connected by a wire for transferring data, they are going to be connected to something to be able to power itself. And it can't last forever. Batteries don't last that long. I see that in my own cases. Battery-powered cameras usually last just long enough so that you don't get the shot. They're inevitably flawed because the battery will die. To be able to power them up is a whole nother story that we can get into in a later video.
He's going to be graphing the signal strength of the camera in order to try to find its location using Wireshark alone.
So I'm going to be using the IO graph on Wireshark in order to pinpoint the location of the hidden camera. I currently set up a few parameters that should let me track this by the signal strength, and we're going to see how successful this is.
To find the hidden camera, we can scan nearby wireless traffic for devices with MAC addresses belonging to camera manufacturers, like the Sony camera here. After we find the device we want to track, we can write a filter using the MAC address or SSID that it's broadcasting, and plot the signal strength on a graph in order to track it down.
Okay, so what if you don't know the camera SSID or camera manufacturer name? You're going to look for aberrant names, things that don't make sense. If you see a ton of different devices that are really, really close to you, start with the ones that are really significant and then work your way back. And that way, you're not chasing around a bunch of SSIDs. In this particular example, you need to know the device name ahead of time to be able to track it. But in reality, if you look for where the IO graphs punch or peak, and then work your way back and see what those devices are, then you can figure it out. Obviously, if you don't have a suspicion of this happening, you're just going to look for where you're seeing the peaks occur, and then from there you can figure out if something is in the area.
All right, so I pulled up the IO graph, and I currently have parameters set to track down the camera's SSID, as well as plot the signal strength on the y-axis. So that way we should be able to track down this camera by its RSSI field. So we're going to start looking for the location of this camera. As you can see, we're not getting any feedback here. Looks like we have a really low signal strength. I would presume it's not towards this end of the room. It starts to jump up a little bit here. And if I actually plot this on a logarithmic scale, looks like we're getting a jump in signal strength around this area.
Okay, so this is important. See how he's automatically starting to scan the room. You have to move around the room with the device so that you can see where things are going. You can't stand in the middle of the room and see where the peaks are happening. You're going to have to scan the borders. You're going to have to go around the corners of the room. And also be careful because there's also the potential for getting an aberrant signal like the normal house or lodging SSID.
Cool, so this general area tends to show more activity on the IO graph. And actually, this very suspicious looking glade here, which looks to obviously have a camera rigged to it, is giving us a very high signal strength, which you can see immediately jumps up on this graph here. And as this indicates, we've basically pinpointed the location of this not so hidden camera.
So notice what he's doing now. He had to change the function to a log function to be able to see, which is impressive. So there is a little bit of maneuvering within the graphing function of Wireshark to be able to specifically route out something that might be hidden in there. And you're going to have to play with it. It's not a plug-and-play situation, or at least not if you're not functionally literate with Wireshark.
If you can't locate a camera connected to Wi-Fi, you can also still use the flashlight on your phone to walk around and see if you can get a reflection from the lens. Also, if the camera is using infrared, some phones like this Pixel are able to actually see infrared with an infrared camera, and you can use this feature in order to locate sources of infrared light where there shouldn't be. Based on Alex's experience, Wireshark was a pretty good tool for tracking down the physical location of a Wi-Fi security camera. But let's get a second opinion from a cybersecurity professional.
So Kodie is 1000% on the mark. Using your phone is an absolutely vital tool for searching out these devices. There are things that you can see through your camera that you're not going to be able to see in real life, obviously. But on top of that, you're going to be able to see things that pick up after you hit play from recording. And that's the big thing. You need to hit record and scan the room. And then what you see afterwards when you hit play and you watch the playback, you'll be surprised. There are things floating around in the other spectrums of light that we're just not able to pick up. Now, what if the camera isn't on Wi-Fi? What if it's recording locally? What if it's Bluetooth? What if it's dormant? What if it's got independent power? This is why professionals layer methods: physical inspection, technical inspection, pattern recognition, behavioral awareness, all of it together, the whole business. Here's an interesting consideration. What if you want to do a Wi-Fi camera check, but you don't want to walk around with a laptop? It's kind of cumbersome, right? Technology is coming out all the time and will give you an edge if you purpose it correctly. There are a few interesting devices that can fill the gap if you decide to stretch out and get out of your comfort zone. Load it out with Kali or Parrot and an alpha adapter, and you've got yourself a high-speed, low-drag device that will give you the functionality of a laptop and a form factor that will raise a few less eyebrows. What's the takeaway? You check the room, now you check the network. But remember, no trick catches everything. So trust your instincts, layer your methods, and stay observant. And if you found value in this, please take the time to hit the like button, subscribe, do all the things. It will really help us continue to take the fight to digital thuggery. I'd like to take a moment one more time to thank Kodie Kinzie, and do please support him in his efforts. The links are in the description. And I'd like to thank you too. Thank you for taking the time. I'm Shotgun Mike, and this is Counterpunch Digital, reminding you to keep your eyes open and an open mind too. You never know who or what might be watching. See you in the next video.